The town of Farmington. Respecting history, planning the future.
Now, I'd like to welcome you all to the October 25th Town Council meeting and ask you to stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Peter, would you lead us, please?
Yes. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'd like to ask if there's any public comment, and come to the podium and give your name and address, please. Okay. We'll move on to consideration of special topics. We first have D1. Meredith?
I move to approve the proposed contract between the Farmington Education Association and the Board of Education.
Second.
I'd like to welcome the Board of Ed here, Mark Lohr, who's chair of the negotiating team, Kathy Greeter, our superintendent, and Vince, who is the financial person on the Board of Ed. And would you like to speak to this to begin with, or? Okay. Sure, please do. And we appreciate you coming to talk to us about it tonight.
So both the board and the Teachers Association have ratified the 3-year contract. Basically, in the first year, this contract would call for a 1.52 GWI general wage increase for teachers at the top step of the salary schedule. All other teachers would just basically go up to their next step, given their experience. And there would be no GWI for all other steps. In the second year, it's a 1.5% GWI for teachers, again, at top step of the salary schedule. And then all other teachers, once again, would then advance to the next step. But no GWI for all the other steps besides the top step. And then in the third year, there is again a 1.5% GWI for teachers on the top step, with a step for all other teachers in year 3. There are some new insurance plan changes where the board will deposit towards their deductible 50%. We were providing 55%. And then in 17-18, the premium cost share will remain at 19%. That's where it is this year. In-network out-of-pocket maximum is $2,500 for a single, $5,000 for a family. In 18-19, the premium cost share would go up to 20%. And then the in-network out-of-pocket maximum would be $2,750 single, $5,500 for a family. And then in the year 2019-2020, the premium cost share would go up to 21%. And the in-network out-of-pocket maximum would remain at that level, the same level as 18-19. We did add, as part of language, an adoption leave was added to the contract for teachers. That was something that was of high interest, and I think both the board and the teachers felt that that was an important addition to the contract language. So we have provided, some of the financial impacts of this contract. We have, some really substantial savings in our healthcare, which, we really do thank our Teachers Association for working with us in collaboration to try to avoid costs in that particular area. And, I would just open it up to any questions that you might have.
One question I have, maybe you can explain for people who might watch this meeting on TV, when a teacher has a step increase, what that percentage might be or how much it is, because I think sometimes people don't understand the step process. So maybe if you could just give a brief explanation what that is, or how much of a percentage change it is from one step to the next, if you can. I know it's kind of a complicated thing.
So it's always found in our budget book. So if anyone was interested in looking at the salary grid, it is in our budget book each year, and it's online on our website. It varies depending on what step you're on, but it could be from 3%.
Could be a little higher.
And it could be up to 5% or more. You know, it just depends on the salary grid and where you are with your experience, and not only your years of experience, but also the degrees that you have.
Yeah.
There are basically, 3 tracks that you can be on when it comes to the amount of education that you have, and then there's also the number of years of experience. So it does depend where you are. You could be getting a 3% increase because you're moving from step 3 to step 4, and it could be a little more than that. So I think the acknowledgement that we were going to not have a GWI general wage increase and any other step but the top step was just an acknowledgement that there is a wage increase because you're moving step. But what is, I think, unique about this is that the salary grid will remain the same for the 3 years, except at the top step.
Okay, I just wanted to get it out there because some people just don't know about it or understand it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I'm only going to add about the philosophy about steps is it is part of retaining, having younger teachers retained an important philosophy too.
John?
Yeah, what percentage of the teachers are at the top right now? Do you know offhand?
I can get back to you with an exact percentage, John. I don't know off the top of my head on that.
Sure.
And John?
With the percentage that is kind of like where we have the movement when we come to the budget cycle, because if one of those teachers retire, obviously it's where we can save money. As we bring in newer teachers, they cost less, obviously.
You can tell us. Go ahead.
So, I was just saying that, with I don't remember the exact percentage, but that's an area where we have the most fluidity with the salaries, because obviously at that range, they're being paid a lot more than our newer teachers.
Oh, when you have retirements and you have new people coming in.
So I don't remember the exact percentage, but I know that was extremely high.
Right.
Well, that's the one thing I was going to, then John, I'll let you, but just the one thing we have the numbers that you gave us for each year of what the expectation of the net increase will be in the budget from, 836, 700, and 689. And that, what you're saying, that could change because, as you said here, if there are retirements, if you have new people coming in, or you have people moving, or, if teachers come and go, that changes that number. But it's a base number of where you think you're, it gives us an idea of where you're at this.
It says it's a snapshot of time of
Yes.
where we are right now.
Yeah, Mark is pointing out a very important part about this. It is a snapshot in time. We have that in here because it is an estimate. It's just when the group of teachers that we had at the time that we did the negotiations. And while it could happen that there's a higher, if there's a retirement, it could be a higher at the top step. It is not the highest likelihood that occurs.
John?
So generally speaking, how long does a teacher stay at a particular step, and what do they need to do to move to the next step?
So, it's right there. So there are 13 steps altogether, but some of those steps you remain in for a few years, and it is part of negotiations that we look at the step movement, and we say, gee, is a step, do we have to collapse a step? Do we have to extend? So we do look at that when we're going to enter negotiations, because that would be part of the negotiations. So I know for the first step, it's, you're just starting out, you haven't taught before. Part of this contract too doesn't give the, and this is a long-standing part of the contract, I don't have discretion on where I would put someone in the salary because it's all based on their experience and that's written in the contract. So it's very clear, you know, we calculate from their years of experience and they're placed on the grid. It's not like I could say, well, gee, this is a shortage area. I'd like to give this, you know, to attract this person, I want to give a little more. That is not something we can do in Farmington. It is absolutely based on the number of years. It's very clear in the contract, and given the number of years, we place you on this step. And then, for instance, you know, step 2 is 1 year experience, but when you get to step 5, you remain in step 5, 4 years to 6 years experience. So that's an example that during negotiations at some point, they decided that that was important to remain on step. And it's usually for a variety of reasons, but I would predict it was financial, that it was important that given the number of steps, we wanted to extend the steps. We didn't want 13 years and you're a top step, we wanted more years. So if you're on step 5, you remain there for, you know, for 2 years. Well, 4 years experience to 6. And then, so by the time you get to 13, that's the top step, it's not 13 years experience, it's 14 plus. So those things happen during negotiations over many years. And we didn't do anything with step this year. That wasn't part, you know, that wasn't something that we did see. But I think in future years, we'll probably look at, you know, this grid and say, do we need to make some changes to it?
I can remember sometimes where you'd combine or you'd split steps, or depending on whether there were bulk, you know, groups, and or just depending on what your feeling was with those years as you went financially through the list. So, but Amy.
Just to follow up with that, the other school districts that we compete with, they have this, for lack of a better word, rigidity, and that they really need to, there's not much discretion. So if you have a phenomenal teacher that you want to retain, it seems like we don't have the ability from a financial standpoint to do what we can to keep them. There's a competition in other towns. Is it very similar?
I think it really does depend on each town's contract, how they approach that. You know, I've been in districts where there is a lot of discretion. I think that, you know, it works for us. We have competitive salaries. It really hasn't been an issue for us in not attracting teachers. I think Farmington itself is a place where people do want to come and teach, and so we have that as an advantage, and I think our salaries are competitive. So it really, in my time here, I have not seen that as, you know, an issue for us.
What's our attrition rate? I mean, not attrition that someone needs to move to Ohio for, like, but our attrition within the Farmington Valley area.
I mean, I would say typically 12 retirements. About 12 retirements, about that each year, but I would say we're hiring 35 teachers a year. Pretty much. I mean, that's been pretty steady for the last 3 years. And that kind of speaks to your question about, well, how many people are on the top step? You know, when you have an experience teaching faculty, you're going to see that kind of turnover when it comes to, you know, retirements. I would say we also pride ourselves in teacher leadership, so we do have some of our faculty moving on to administrative positions, which we're very proud of. We might not have that availability here with an administrative position, but they're hired in another district for that, so that does happen as
So
well.
the vast majority of the teachers pretty much stay within the Farmington system throughout their career?
We have incredible longevity here when it comes to administrators and teachers. We're very
Which
fortunate.
means that they're happy with the system.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
John.
My question got answered. I was
Oh, okay.
basically going to ask the same question. So, thanks.
Anybody else? Questions? Anything else you'd like to add? Anybody? You feel good about the contract with everybody? Yeah.
Nice job.
I think it's very well done contract. I think it benefits the town. I think, you know, it was a great process working together with the teachers, coming up together with something that, you know, works good for the town, works good for them, and I think long term it's going to have a very very good budget impact on us all.
Yes, thank you very much. It does. It seems like a really good contract and good financial impact for us, throughout and 3 years out, which is excellent,
John, Kathy just pointed out that on one of these charts, I do have a total number of teachers at top step number here. It's 171.
Out of how many?
379.
Oh, okay.
379.
Okay, thank you.
And the only other thing I was going to add, just in kind of closing, was that this ended at a mediation. The last contract ended at right before arbitration, so it certainly came to a different conclusion.
Well, that says a lot for the groups negotiating, too. I mean, for your group negotiating, Mark, and the teacher group negotiating. I mean, clearly you wanted to come to some resolution without having to go to arbitration, which is always a plus if both sides can, everybody, many times in the negotiating, everybody's there's a little something you wish or you hadn't, but this seems like everybody really came together, and it certainly is going to be a good financial benefit for the town.
Yes, I think all parties would agree that it was a good
For everyone.
negotiation for everybody. We were able to come to a good resolution. There was really no big faults that I can think of between either party. And,
Great.
At the end of the day, we walked away feeling very good about what happened.
Good. Well, thank you very much, and we
Our
appreciate
board
it.
chair.
Thank you, Mark, and all of you.
Good job on Vince as well.
The number crunching, minute by minute, right? Yeah, yeah. I'm sure. And thank you, Peter, for our liaison.
Yes, it was. Yeah, yeah, I learned a lot. I listened and listened. Vince runs his numbers. He's good. Very good.
Well, thank you to you all and the teachers as well. Great. So we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Good night. Yep. Okay, I'm going to read Town of Farmington press release, and our town council meeting is actually after this event. So a short ceremony will be held at the Farmington Town Hall, 1 Monteith Drive, in front of the Veterans Memorial Monument at 11 a.m. on Friday, November 11th, 2016. If you have any questions regarding the ceremony, please contact Justin Bernier at 860-866-8706. So right out in front of the Town Hall on November 11th at 11 o'clock. Thank you. Okay. Continuing on, D2. Kathy.
D2. We have D2 and D3, which is a presentation, and Russ Arnold and Matt Bloom from our engineering division are here, and we've put the presentation together to put D2 and 3 together. And goal 7, which is D2, talks about the existing trail and parking lot system. And D3 talks about all our open space and rails to trails and walking paths. And so Russ and Matt put a presentation together for us, and I think they have hard copies, and that's it.
Shouldn't R2 come before D2?
Is that better? Is there a question you had?
Oh, yeah. Before we start, I asked Russ to just give a quick update, because there was an article in the newspaper last week that said that our Route 4, ours, meaning the state of Connecticut Route 4 project, was delayed. And I wanted Russ to address that because, Russ, why don't you talk about that a little bit, to your knowledge?
Thank you. There is a slight delay in the project. They ran into a lot of conflicts between the water main and the storm drain system. When they were putting in the storm drain, started doing that by Naples, they ran into a water main. And on the flip side, when they started doing the water main, they ran into problems with the storm drain. There's been some issues between coordination. And they said in our we had a progress meeting, I think it was last Tuesday, that they were 54 days behind schedule. Tilcon's going to put on a second crew to make time up. We're one season in. We have another season plus, maybe two. I don't see it really prolonging the job that, for those 2 months. They're going to make up about a month just by adding a second crew coming up. So a delay of 30 days at this point, I'm not that concerned about.
And Russ, maybe just mention too that one of the things that I was not that pleased about the article is that they said they were delayed 50-something days, but in reality, the project has been ahead a whole construction season. So
Right.
we made up a whole
year.
a year of time. So to say that the project's delayed is really not an accurate statement when you made up a year of time last time. So again, that was
Explain
something
that.
that I thought should be clearer.
We, as part of the whole project, when we were looking at the design and the construction and trying to minimize impacts to Route 4 and any traffic delays, back and forth with the state, we separated out the sanitary sewer project, which was our portion of our utility project. With that, based on the statutes, we get 100% reimbursement. So that $4.5 million was paid for without any cost to us out of the taxpayer dollar. By doing it a season ahead, they wouldn't have done anything for that year. They would have, because they were still finishing up design. They were taking, details, whatever they were finishing up for that year while we were out to construction already. We would have started. We had to go first because we're the deepest utility. We were 12, 14 feet in the ground with a 24-inch pipe. So by getting us going a full season earlier, that helped the project. It basically took a year off the project on the back end because we wouldn't have technically started. We would have started this past spring with the sewer project when we were already done with it. So that's why Kathy says we're a year ahead of schedule because there would have been no work all last summer.
So Russ, what's the completion date as of today?
Still in the fall of 18.
Okay.
So it's there, whether it's September or November.
The fall
At
of
this
18.
point, it's on paper.
Okay.
It's truly calculated out from their, scheduling program. And like I said, they're going to make up time just by adding another crew. Now that things are going to be opened up, they're going to be into phase 2 will be starting, where you'll see barrier out there. Then that's when it's going to look crazy for a year. So they'll be working and trying to get through 4 stages in about a year and a half, which is an aggressive schedule.
When you say look crazy, can you elaborate?
You're going to see Jersey barrier out there. You're going to see a lot of work going on. You're going to have traffic separated, moved around. It won't be in the same pattern as you see it typically today. You could be moved over both lanes will be moved over to the south side of the road. Both lanes will be moved over to the north side of the road. You're going to be split at some point.
Is it still going to be primarily during the night hours?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Until some point when they push traffic to the south, meaning along the Village Green, then they'll be working during the day behind the barrier.
Okay.
Russ, the other question, we have you here that comes up quite a bit, and maybe you can explain it because I haven't done a very good job of it, is that there's always comment, it seems like that the road is it's being dug up, then a road is being put back on, and then the same place is being dug up again. And why, when it's being dug up, can't they just do everything they need to do instead of keep on putting the pavement on it? And that question comes up
All
time
the
and
time.
time again. And so maybe you can
We
give
didn't
it,
go to school for.
if you can explain why they have to do it that way.
Sure. As you're digging down, they're down 10, 12 feet deep with the storm drain. They're down 5 feet with the water main. You got to start and stop. You got to patch the road. But by doing that, it allows traffic to get back to the normal lanes that we have today for the day, for the morning rush hour and the afternoon rush hour. If they were to leave a trench box in and leave a hole in the ground, we would be down to 1.5 lanes, and the traffic would be backed up beyond anyone's wildest dreams. So you start, you dig, you go so many feet, and you start, it appears to the normal person, it would appear that they aren't making any progress, but they really are. There were some snafus. They broke the water main, if you remember, this past summer during an event at the Naples. Pizza. It was perfect timing. So things like that happen. And yet they do have to repeat and start over again. So it's not an exact science, unfortunately, when you're digging with that kind of equipment that deep in the ground. But they are making progress.
But you can't take the road apart and do all this utilities at the same spot. Like, you
No, you
can't
work
go
on
down
one.
and do sewer, water, electricity,
No.
and then close it up and then move.
There's not enough time. Instead of putting in, 40 feet a day, you'd be putting in about 8 feet a day of each utility. Start and stop. And like the water main, you got to start, stop. Then you got to backfill. Then you'd have to dig back down, put the storm drain in, backfill that, put back up, move over, slide over, dig back down again. It's not conducive to getting any production done.
And a lot of this issue in general is that we have demanded that they keep the lanes of traffic open because we can't shut down lanes.
Absolutely.
And so because of that, that's one of the major reasons that it's being done the way it is.
Correct. And part of the project, truth be told, not that I would lie, is that this is the first year of this project. We knew it was going to be difficult, just because of the utilities that we had to get done. They have a hydrodynamic separator that's about as long as this room to accommodate the storm drainage that's coming through there. The drainage area comes from 84 all the way down through the village. So in order to accommodate that first flush of runoff, you literally are about in a 30-foot box, about 16 feet deep and about 12 feet wide. That's what's out in front of Naples and Route 4 right now. So that was a huge part of the project. That took probably a week and a half just to get that box in. You dig down, you shore it, you temper plate it, and that's unfortunately the name of the game. And being that we have every utility under the sun here, we have AT&T or Frontier, whatever they're called today. They have conduits that are encased in concrete. Some of it is 3 feet wide by 4 feet deep. Some of it is 12 feet wide by 5 feet deep. And they have to go underneath that. Well, how do you dig a hole 12 feet wide and support it and be 10 feet below it? It's very difficult. So at some points there are very slow progress. Maybe they're getting 8 or 12 feet of pipe a night, 20 feet of pipe. It's a long, slow process. But this next year, you're going to see a lot more activity.
And and I was just going to say, again, I just want to make sure for the public that this is a state project. It's not the town project, but
It feels like a town project.
But you monitor it. You go to the progress meetings. We're on top
We're
of
in
it.
constant contact with the
them.
state and the contractor. If something comes up, Craig Albert's been great. We have the same mindset, and he calls me, I call him, we text, whatever. It's a very open dialogue. So whenever there's an issue, he lets me know something's coming up. And then, unfortunately, I end up being the bearer of some bad news sometimes, but at least we know about it.
Communicating, though.
Absolutely. No, he's really good. So.
Weather permitting, will you work through the winter?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They'll keep working until they can't work anymore. And what they're trying to do is get into where they can get the Jersey barrier up so then they can work behind it. So.
And are they going to patch the road enough so for the winter?
I have been asking, and they are saying that they'll take care of it. But
okay.
They're trying to get as much done as they can, and it's actually working very well as a traffic calming device that we don't promote in town.
All right. Russ, I appreciate it. I just thought that would be helpful.
Yes, no,
So
thank
we're
you.
done? We're good?
Yep,
Okay.
Okay.
good.
All right.
Nope. All right. What we have tonight is we're going to talk about all our trails in town. It's very similar to the presentation we did, John, 4 years ago already, which when I went back, I couldn't believe 4 years had gone by so quick, that we held at the community center. We had a great turnout, I bet 80 to 100 people maybe in that range. It was very well attended. And we'll talk about all the trails, the rails of trails, walking trails. We'll get into the bike committee. And then I don't know if it'd be easier if I just go through the presentation and then do questions and
Yeah.
comments at the end? Would
Sure.
that be the best, you think?
Sure.
All right. There's just an overall map of our existing trails in town. That's all part of your package. And I'll go through this relatively quick. I think everyone has a pretty good handle on where we are. If there's a question, we can always come back. We'll go through the existing paved trails. This is our trail system is part of the larger picture. We're just a little slice of pie in the trail system on the East Coast Greenway that goes from Canada all the way down to Key West, which I thought was a pretty cool attribute to have in town. And the rails to trails, we have the Farmington River Trail. That's 4.3 miles, and that's within the town of Farmington. We have an 18-mile spur, and it's part of a 28.5-mile loop. We have the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail, which is part of the East Coast Greenway. With that, we have 4.7 miles, and that right now goes from New Haven to Massachusetts. And you can get there relatively quickly for a total of 80 miles.
But in the town of Farmington, it's 4.7 and 4.3.
Correct.
That's what's in our,
That's what we own and maintain.
and maintain.
And that's part of the river trail from Red Oak Hill Road to the Burlington Town Line. The Red Oak Hill Road is right at the top of Tungus Mead. And we go from the Canal Heritage Trail from Plainville to the Avon Town Line. And that's a picture of our beautiful trestle over the Farmington River, which is still one of the most scenic areas on the trail. And then we'll talk over here about the trails that we have in construction. We're going from Red Oak Hill to the Plainville Town Line. This is under construction right now, and another plug for the town. We ended up getting about a $5 million grant from the state of Connecticut for the construction of this trail. And here's a picture of them paving the section. This is in front of Lanny's. Everyone know where Lanny Violette's is, the storage units. And I just want to point out, it's kind of small in your slide, in your papers, but down here is one of the old culverts, railroad culverts, that's made out of granite and brick from 1883. And that's right on the Plainville line on Johnson Ave, just past Trump. And here's what the bridge is going to look like that's going to go over Route 6, where you come out by the former Parsons or McPhee Electric, right at Route 6 and New Britain Avenue. Our unpaved trails, we got the Metacomet, the Blue Trail, we got Will Warren's Den, the trail through to Hillstead, the Farmington Land Trust has numerous trails in town on their properties. There's a blow up of the Hillstead Walking Trail. On Meadow Road's bike trail from Garden Street to Red Oak Hill Road. This brings you right up to New Britain Avenue. The Aqueduct Trail down on Waterville Road, where the canal was. South Meadows, the Tungus Mead Riverwalk. Shade Swamp off of Route 6. This is another old trail that many people still visit. There is still a cedar shelter that was built years ago, and it's still in existence. Right at just east of New Britain Avenue. The Memorial Forest. The West District neighborhood trails. These are the paths that were installed when Walnut Farms was constructed, where they have their direct access to West District School. Suburban Park in Unionville Center. Saddle Ridge in the Collinsville Road open space. This is adjacent to the trail system on River Road, right by Lawton Minor, or the mini golf in Route 4. The Farmington Reservoir Trail system. The Fisherman's Trail along the river. This is from the parking lot near the treatment plant, heading up to the Gristmill Dam. There's a walking path there along the river.
That's the one that you
That
just,
needs to be cleaned up, yeah.
Yep, we cleaned that
that's the
up
one you just
Did we?
recently cleaned
couple,
up.
probably about 2 months ago. Here's the parking lot. Here's the new bridge that was built completed in 2010. Garden Street. And the trail comes down on the west side of the river And here's where the dam is. And there is a bridge in here that the Boy Scouts built.
Did you guys clean that up too?
We did to a point. We're going to have to put that into our budget, I think, to put some work into that bridge. It kind of collapsed.
The kids are always
I
looking.
wonder if we know someone who's in.
I do know
You
someone.
do?
Honestly.
I'm not joking.
Name. No, he's looking for a project.
I'm not joking. It's
Well-
perfect.
That's where the
What's the
hand,
bridge? Can you say that again, Russ?
Yeah, down here, there's a little canal. It's a seasonal watershed where the flats drain into. It becomes a brook. There's an old timbered bridge that the Boy Scouts built probably 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It's rotted away now. They took logs, basically cut logs and tied them together and made a footbridge.
Oh.
And now, after this much time, it's finally rotted away, so.
and Russ, this is up at the top is where the handicap fisherman trail,
Right here, this is the fishing pier that went in
Right.
with the bridge
Yeah, that's where that
as
is.
part of the bridge project. Unpaid trails. Now, this is a trail, this is down by Fisher Farms on Town Farm. Here's the farm. And this is a walking trail that we opened up and cleared 3 years ago now? Is that 3 years, John?
Saying 2 years.
2 years? And it connects with the trail from Avon. And the one thing we tried doing is extending a trail here to do a loop, but the farmer is farming that property, that section now, and he was very concerned about extending the trail onto the section of farm that he's having people walking through his active farming. So the one good thing is, this whole canal, the old canal, is still very accessible, so people can walk there who know about it. I think the biggest highlight is this portion here along the river. And the aqueduct, back to the aqueduct, just another blow up of where they are and doing it. There's always been talk about making this connection to the open space that we have down to the canal piece. The Burnt Hill parcel, and it's just an overall trails map, and this is on our website. This has the parking lots. It shows anything and everything you need to know about our trails and that we have in town.
And Russ, for that, if you go back one, isn't that something that they recently have done? We've created this
Yes.
app? That's something,
Yep.
was it the bike committee?
Part of the bike committee.
Bike committee, because one of the things that we always got people asking, there's so many trails, open space ones, walking trails, and where to park and where they are. And so this was something that the bike committee had recently had put together for it, and it's on our website. People ask for it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a very popular map. Parking. We have the trail parking on Brickyard Road. Here's the old crossing, railroad crossing. New Britain Avenue. This is at Copper Mine. You might notice that this one's full all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy busy. Oak Ridge. This is just, here's our park department, park garage. The highway garage is just south of here. This parking lot is not very active. Matt and I took a look at it, and we're going to open up, we're going to trim some bushes down, cut a couple trees down to open it up so people driving by can actually see the parking lot. We've realized, we know it's there, but if people coming from out of other towns, they probably will drive right by it. We're going to change the sign as well. The sign is parallel to the road. We're going to change it perpendicular, so it'll stand out more. And the River Road has a little parking area right here. This is the mini golf is up here. Route 4 is to the north. This is the Route 4 parking lot along just heading into Burlington. The bridge is here. The mini golf is down to your south. And here's the new parking lot that we're going to build this late fall, early in the spring, at the end of Johnson Avenue and Northwest Drive as part of the Rails to Trails project that we're working on now.
Explain where that is, please.
Here, if you come down here, Trump is up here.
Oh.
The Robertson Airport is right here. When you're coming down Johnson Avenue, you come to the three-way stop. You're looking at the runway for Robertson Airport up
Right ahead
high.
of me.
We're right there on the left.
Oh. Okay.
Yep. And it makes a good connection. It has the trail, Plainville bike path that runs on the north side of Northwest Drive. So we'll be connecting in right with that. And the bicycle committee. Everyone knows that that committee worked very hard, and we got the bronze status, which is a big achievement. Installed the sharrows on Batterson Park Pond between the city of New Britain and the town of Farmington. Installed a lot of bike signage on several roads in town, which is a pretty big step. Bicycle parking, and the zone, part of our zoning regs now, that any new business or any new site plan has to provide bicycle parking. You have to have a bike rack when you come in. It's a standard that we require now. And that's all part of the bicycle-friendly committee. And keep working on our town-wide data and mapping, and everything that they do gets put up onto our website. So everything's there, accessible for anybody in town and out of town. And they're going to they're working on a survey now and then developing our complete streets policy. So that's all stuff, those are the last things that are still in progress.
Can you explain what a complete streets policy is?
I can, and I will. A complete streets policy is basically taking all modes of transportation and making sure you've reviewed it and incorporated that as much as you can into a design of a new road, or if you're going to rebuild a road. Taking into bicyclists, pedestrians, multimodal type of transportation, and making sure that you get the best bang for your buck when you do that design and reconstruction. So, and we have to develop a policy that is cognizant with this DOT and all the other requirements of multimodal transportation. Okay? And that's that. I don't know if there's any questions. Didn't want to belabor anything, but I didn't want to skip over anything in particular.
Question regarding the bicycle committee, I guess, and bicycling in general. But how do we manage or handle enforcement? Because now that there's a lot more bicycles on the road, I can't tell you. I always see bicyclists violating the law, like every day. I'm not really exaggerating, unfortunately. I know, when you learn to drive a car, you go through driver's ed and you learn the laws. I'm not so sure that bicyclists maybe know the law. So, what do we do about that? How do we handle that?
Don't hit them. Would be my first thing. It's hard because it's getting people to understand what the laws are. Anybody can go and buy a bike, and they have every legal right to ride it on the road. It's very difficult to ensure that they understand that they can't ride 2 or 3, 4 people wide, and I'm sure that's what you're referring to.
I see them blowing stop signs and red lights constantly.
I guess not to argue with you, but I'm okay with the blowing of the red light because they're taking their own life in their hand. But when they're 3 or 4 wide,
which I've seen as well,
to me that's the bigger downfall because now nobody can get by.
Right.
But there are a lot of things. I agree with you, John. There's a lot of things, but how do you get that word out? I think that's something that we can have the bicycle committee look at, as well as different avenues through the Rails to Trails and the Trail Council, getting some of those rules and regulations out there. But it's unfortunately you don't need a license to ride a bike. That's the hard part. But I agree with you. It's troublesome.
Maybe that's something that can be brought up at the bike committee,
Well, the thing about it is that when the bicycle's on the road, they're considered a vehicle.
Yeah.
And they have to obey the same laws, but they don't have to move over to the side to get away from the car.
Right.
Most bicyclists do, and that's why we put out signs that say share the road. So both bicyclists and motorists will know both have a right to be on that road. When the bicycle goes onto the sidewalk, which is permissible in town, they're considered pedestrians. They have to use crosswalks. They can't just drive into the street, no more than somebody can just walk into a street. Mm-hmm. So those are things, and I think that a lot of people are under the misconception that bikes aren't supposed to be on the sidewalk, or that bikes aren't really vehicles. And that's what the training's about. Now, there has been a number of courses through continuing ed, through the police department, trying to promote bicycle safety, certainly in the schools as well. So that's a process that's happening. It's just going to happen slowly.
Could we put maybe some of the more important points just even in the community newsletter, assuming that not everybody goes to training?
Yeah, and also on the web, just what you just said, I think is just a very good explanation about being on it, when you're on the road, you're a
Yeah, I didn't realize bicycles could ride on the sidewalk.
sidewalk, yeah. So we'll make a note of that.
Amy?
Quick question. As someone who uses these paths and these trails, I mean, they're an enormous gem. And the bike paths, I've, as a pro-Farmington town council person and resident, I hit a lot of the towns, and ours are maintained beautifully. Like, you can really tell that you've left Farmington based on the condition. So, first of all, you're doing a fantastic job. This is more for everyone watching and for myself, too. I've been watching you do it's Red Oak to the Plainville line. If you can just, again, give us a timeline, because people are anxious for it to be done. When can we bike on there, and when will that beautiful bridge be done?
Well, we have signs that say it's closed, but that doesn't matter, because I
Really?
just watched somebody take the orange safety fence down on Saturday morning.
Real?
And
See,
get on
I've
the trail.
respected it.
No, I wasn't accusing you. There was no accusation.
I did.
It was a male. But it'll probably be done early next fall, probably about this time next year.
The bridge, too, or?
Everything,
That's quick. Okay.
yeah. Yep.
And then I guess my question that relates to everything, maintenance, not only maintenance of the bike paths, but of the trails. We have an enormous amount of trails. I mean, the one we were talking about, the Fisherman Trail, is one that you just went and cleaned up. If you can just talk about how you're handling maintenance, what the maintenance plan is, and if you have proper funding to maintain all of this. Sorry.
Thank you. No, that's a great question. We do not have proper funding.
Okay, that's why we're here.
It's hard. It's a difficult job. With so many trails, so many walking paths, we're very lucky to have the Farmington Land Trust. They maintain a lot of trails. They have their stewardships, and they take over a lot of things like that. A lot of times we are we're reactive instead of proactive, just because we have so many trails and so many miles of them to take care of. The one thing that we do is the major trails, we try and hit them on a regular basis. The high volume type trails, the rails to trails, the trails down to Mead. The Fisherman's Trail is a less used trail, but we still, it gets on our list, and somebody will call, and we do hit it every year, but depending on the year, the growth, it'll grow faster than others. But we have pretty much one person, or the summer kids, who will be on the trails every day, on the rails to trails with the gator, up and down, weed whacking, trimming, clearing, blowing them off. We are looking into now that we are on year 21 of our trail from the Big Bird Bridge to the Avon Town line. We built that in 1995. And that it has a few, knock on wood, we did it right. We excavated out. We only have a few roots that have protruded up into the trail that we'll be getting to those in the springtime. So it's difficult. All kidding aside, it's a difficult job, but I think we do a very good job at it. I could sit here and tell you I could use 3 more people just on trail, but it's not feasible. The budget wouldn't sustain it. So we move our resource, we pool our resources, and when something has to get done, we shift from a road work over to the trail work. That's where we dedicate the time. And I think that's what we do well, is we shift our resources around to fill up what we have to get done.
What portion of the trails is Land Trust helping with?
Well, they take care of their own properties, but they don't help. They don't help on ours.
They're not involved with some of our?
Not that I'm aware of. If they do, I don't know about it. Yeah, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Okay.
But everyone uses those. I'm including that as
Right.
things that they take care of, which is a huge help, and it helps promote the use of all the walking paths. But unfortunately, it's a reactive area, except for the rails to trails because of the volume, the sheer numbers that we get on them. So.
Russ, part of I think the discussion is, and it's a good question, follow-up to Amy's, is that now after we finish up the rails to trails, then really now, all our trails are done, and all our paved trails. And now we're going to have to start going, about maintaining them, about repaving them.
Repaving, yep.
And the other big issue is the parking lots. And the parking lots of, one, do we need more parking lots and space? And we're evaluating that. And the other is maintaining those parking lots and putting some work into some of those parking lots, because some of them really haven't had any work done to them. And that's going to be kind of the next step. And then I think the other part of this whole equation is some of the open space in the trails, the bigger ones that really we've neglected that we should be looking at. And the one that sticks to my mind is the reservoir property. And that's a beautiful piece of property up there that we really have not done much with at all. And I think we're going to have to start analyzing some of those pieces of property and because we've done some studies, but really we do studies, but we don't have the manpower or the funding then to really do some of the work that needs to be done. And, we have a lot of volunteers that, Suburban Park has been wonderful. Volunteers have come through and they've marked it for us, and they have gone in and done some of the trails. But the reservoir is one that kind of sticks out for me.
From a parking standpoint, do we have any idea what portion of people who are using those parking lots are Farmington residents?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. The one thing I think will help is by opening up Oak Ridge, and I do have to give some kudos to the Connecticut Water Company. They extended a service for us about 2 years ago, a water service into the parking area at Oak Ridge for us to put a water fountain. We plan on getting that next year and installing that. They did that as a gift to the town. It could have cost in the neighborhood of about $4,000, but they did it on their own. Brought the service in, and now I'm gonna purchase a pretty fancy water fountain. It's crazy what you can get into, but you can have it for the dogs, the smaller children, and the adults, or pets. I shouldn't segregate just to the dogs, but you'll have 3, drinking fountains on one. So it's maybe that will draw more attention to the Oak Ridge, and we'll put it, we'll sign it and things like that. So maybe that'll help promote
People
Oak
don't
Ridge.
know, unless you drive that area, people don't know that exists.
No, and I think you drive by, and listen, I openly admit I have tunnel vision. I know that parking lot's there, and you drive by all of it, but nobody ever uses it. But we were looking at it the other day, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. If you don't know it's there, you drive right by, because the sign is parallel to the road. And you're not really looking, you don't know that the trail is up there. So I think by adding some more signage and changing things up a little bit, we'll promote that parking lot to get more use.
And then we're building a new parking lot.
I think the new parking lot down at Northwest Drive will help relieve some congestion at the Coppermine Road parking lot. And once we start putting these signs up, or putting the maps up on our kiosks that we're going to have, showing people where the parking lots are, different parking lots, I think that'll help as well.
And then the
Get
other
some
parking
promotion.
lot, that's the busy parking lot, the one good thing is that it backs up to our own town property, right?
Where?
By the highway garage.
Correct, yeah.
So, in the Parks Department. So that, again, something in the potential, at least the property next door to it is our property.
Correct.
So.
And if we ever get a chance to relocate, we could increase that parking area even larger. So,
Are you going to actually take trees down and enlarge that parking lot, though? Not just signage, but, it looks like, we walked there one time, it looks like you could increase it some there. I know probably not double it, but
yeah, we could increase it maybe about 5 or 6 spots.
that's all?
Because as we coming out to the road, you'll be getting out closer to the road. It takes, about 200 square feet per each spot, so.
And then, what about enlarging the Coppermine one?
Coppermine we maxed that right out when we first built it. I know people park all over the place on the grass, but CLMP has their poles there, and it's their right of way that we're in, and we were only allowed to do what we could do, and I maxed it right out. They took it back a little bit to get away from their poles for their transmission lines. So
we can't park in between there?
I'd
I kept thinking, maybe we could put pavement right in between all these, and then we could put, another half dozen cars or something.
Yeah, no, but that's the reason. We maxed it right out to as much as we could get that they would allow to get near those poles. So that's the issue, why it doesn't go any farther.
John?
Kathy, I want to respond to something you said, because what you said is that we've completed the paved trails, and now we can just go into maintenance. I think what we finished is the rails to trails.
That's what I meant.
Right, but there are other paved trails, and a good example that we already have goes from Meadow Road.
Right, I meant the rails to
Well,
trails,
and
yeah.
so, but one of the things the bicycle committee has understood, that from Meadow Road west is well served by paved trails, everything east is not. And one of the areas that we've got a lot of conversations with people about is the area from the center of Farmington to the medical school.
Oh, yes,
There's no sidewalks, there's no way to get there, and the road is narrow, and that presents a problem. Another area of possibilities is from the hospital area out to West Hartford, either over to West Farms Mall or into the center of West Hartford. So there's nothing in the plans right now to build those sort of trails, but in the future, those are areas which we look to service with some sort of a paved bike trail or multi-pedestrian trail.
Right. Well, I was going to say, one of the
study.
things that I think we've been working on in the goals is that trying to get people, again, a paved trail to our rails to trail system to get somewhere.
Right.
That's, yeah, and when I was talking before, I meant we finished the rails to trails. But what in our goals is actually to say, is there a neighborhood or a spot at the hospital? Can we do something to get them on a paved trail that would then take you to our rails to trail system, which then can get you almost anywhere you want to go?
Right.
And so, I mean, that's still a whole avenue of stuff that we have to explore too.
And that will be one of the things we look at as part of our Route 4 Yukon study, is that exact issue. So that is one of the things that we'll be looking at under that study, which is currently, it's ongoing now.
Yeah, because that came up many times during the charrettes and during the discussions was accessibility to Yukon now.
Right. And the Jackson Labs.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah, I meant,
Yep.
I just
The
mean
whole-
that
that
whole
whole
area.
complex, yeah.
Yeah.
No, and the connection to West Hartford, with West
Yeah.
Hartford Center, that's what, the young generation is looking for. A lot of people don't are buying cars anymore. I have a nephew who wants to spend $6,000 on a bike. So that's my mode of transportation, so.
Yeah, Meredith.
Just two comments. I live right off of the Saddle Ridge River Road Trail out to Collinsville, and I can't tell you what an improvement in quality of life some of the safety measures have been, just in terms of getting across River Road, and those blinking lights are amazing and wonderful, and so thank you so much for that. And at that same spot, even recently, I've noticed an increased police presence for speeders right there approaching the flashing lights, which I also love and appreciate. So it's made such a difference there. And I was actually going to send you an email, Russ, because I'm on that trail and I have encountered a lot of the maintenance workers, and I've wanted to tell you, and I just never sent the email, that they are so kind and pleasant and fabulous. When people are going past, they stop. If it's mowing or weed whacking, they stop, but they make sure to say hi and wave, and they're just so courteous and pleasant.
Thank you. We have a training program for
And
that.
wonderful.
Well, it's working.
Whatever you're
obviously.
doing,
He must be leading.
Sometimes.
it's
Thank
a
you.
really great experience.
Thanks.
Other comments, questions?
Thank you.
Okay?
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
Thank
We
you.
look forward to Route 6 and ribbon cutting. How's
Yeah,
that?
it's going to be fun. I can't wait. I'm excited for it.
And has anything happened with Plainville yet for them to?
They're
extend?
working on it.
They're working on it.
They're currently working on it, yeah.
Great. Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank you
you.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Matt.
Matt. Here's a,
There you go, Gavin. You might have talked to your other.
we don't need a motion.
Nope.
For either of them.
Yeah, that was just,
Yep. Okay. All right, then. Any other questions or any information about any of this? We're all good.
I hope this was helpful for you, just to kind of get a recap of it. And there's just a million different open space trails all over the place. So it's nice and that the public can see some of the different trails and also the trail map. And so if anyone ever asks you about where the trails are, remind them that we do have a nice map which shows the parking lots and where people can go. So that's
And
always
it is on
helpful.
our website.
Yes,
All
yeah,
this is on
yeah,
our website, so
yeah.
they can just go right to the
Yeah,
Farmington
exactly.
website. Yeah. Okay, great. All right, then. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Wow.
Thanks.